Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. A military standoff between Iraqi army troops and the Peshmerga forces of the Kurdistan Regional Government has been raising tensions between Arabs and Kurds in recent weeks. Both parties claim the right to send forces into disputed territories they claim their own. So far, negotiations have failed to defuse the situation. The Americans are watching the developing crisis nervously, fearing the progress made by their troop surge will go up in smoke in any possible conflict between their closest allies. So how will this latest chapter in the Iraq saga play out? Will the two forces test each other militarily, or will they step back from the brink of conflict?
More than 100,000 Kurdish fighters known as Peshmergas fought alongside American troops in 2003 when the US invaded Iraq. Since then, Peshmerga forces have assumed full responsibility for the security of some areas in northern Iraq. But there are now renewed and increasing tensions in the relationship between Kurdish and Arab political factions in Baghdad. For a long time, one of the key bones of contention between the Kurds and the Iraqi government in Baghdad has been the future of the oil-rich northern city of Kirkuk. The Kurds claim that Kirkuk is the undisputed capital of the Kurdish region in northern Iraq. But now one Kurdish leader, Massoud Barzani, is pushing for parts of Diyala province in northern Iraq to be included in the Kurdish region, described by Kurds as Kurdistan. One of the potential flashpoints is the city of Khanaqin, an oil-rich territory similar to Kirkuk.
Khanaqin is not only an oil-rich city on the borders with Iran. The Kurds wanted this city for a long time because it's an important city of Diyala province with a majority of Kurds and a minority of Arabs. But the Kurds are focusing more on Kirkuk.
Recently, Prime Minister Nuri Al-Maliki ordered the Iraqi army to enter Khanaqin to replace the Peshmerga forces. It was an attempt to check the influence of the Kurdish forces. This was soon followed by orders to force Kurdish political parties out of government-owned buildings in the city. In response, Barzani, the president of the Kurdish Regional Government, threatened to withdraw his support for the Al-Maliki government.
هذه هي المشكلة الآن وربما تتصاعد الفترة المقبلة عندما تبحث قضية كركوك لأن الحكومة. The Iraqi central government is pressuring the Kurds to withdraw from Diyala first, before any future negotiations. This will weaken the Kurds' position to getting back the city of Kirkuk.
The latest problems in the disputed Kurdish territories in northern Iraq could be a hint of things to come in other parts of the country, as Iraq's political stability continues to be overshadowed by issues of competing identities and power.
To find out what lies behind the rising military tension between Erbil and Baghdad, I am joined from Erbil by Dindar Zibari, KRG coordinator to the United Nations, and from Los Angeles by Brian Catalis, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and from London by Saad Naji Jawad, author and political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. The Maliki government has ordered the KRG to leave the area and to send the Iraqi forces. Why is it the KRG, why is it Massoud Barzani, for the sake of the country, not pulling the Peshmerga forces from Diyala?
First of all, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. President Barzani has already put a lot of efforts to support the unity, internal integrity of Iraq, and also the territorial boundaries of Iraq. And the clear example for that, evidence for that, the Peshmerga forces that have been deployed for the last 3-4 years after the liberation of the country to areas outside the region to help Iraq restore peace and order.
You did not answer my question. I mean, that is part of the agreement. Peshmerga is to help the Iraqi forces whenever required. Right now, those forces are declared by the Iraqi Ministry of Forces to leave the Diyala province. Why aren't they leaving? Why are they creating this tension between the Peshmerga and the Iraqi forces? It could easily get out of hand into a mini war between Erbil and Baghdad.
There is already an agreement signed or announced yesterday from Khanaqin an agreement that has been somehow developed even following the military mission happened to Khanaqin by the chief commander of the Iraqi Defense Ministry, with political representatives from KRG and the representative of President Barzani in Khanaqin. There is already an agreement that the Iraqi forces and the Peshmerga forces will have the full understanding on the science and also the possession that they have to occupy for the time being. But as you know, these areas are called disputed areas, and there is a commitment from Iraqi authorities to start the process of normalization and also census and then go for a referendum. There is a problem in Iraq. It's called the mother of disputes, which is the Article 140. And I think these areas must be politically sorted out before military solutions.
Saad Najijwad, the recent agreement is nothing more than just a brief lowering of the tension. And if one of the forces does not give way, it's only a matter of time before conflagration and military conflict will ensue.
Well, Jassim, this is bound to happen, I think, with the way that the Kurdish federal government is working, and of course with the weakness of the central government, or actually the non-existence of the central government. This is bound to happen, I think. I just wanted to correct a few things, if you allow me. To start with, in your introduction, you said the tension between Arab and Kurds. There is no tension between Arab and Kurds. There is tension between the government and the Kurdish political parties. The second thing, I heard Mr. Zibari speaking about the efforts of Mr. Barzani to keep the unity of Iraq and sending Peshmerga. If he is accepting the idea of sending Peshmerga elsewhere in Iraq, why doesn't he accept the sending of Iraqi army to the region of Khanaqin or Kirkuk? This is a contradiction by itself. I think with the weakness of the government and with the strong position of the Kurdish forces, they will be ready, or they will be able to take whatever they want. And I think what the Kurds used to complain about, and we used to support them a lot in the past, about the lack of confidence between them or in the central government, now is created between the majority of Iraqis and the Kurdish leadership. They feel that the Iraqi majority, Arab majority of Iraq, and even some Kurds, they feel that the Kurdish leadership now, unfortunately, is trying to get whatever they could.
Brian, you are an expert about that region. You are an expert about the Kurdistan area. How do you see this? Is this some sort of creating facts on the ground, a fait accompli, to better their negotiation positions vis-a-vis Kirkuk later on?
I think so. I mean, I'd like to talk about this from a U.S. policy perspective, because from the U.S. perspective, much of the Iraq debate has been focused on the so-called surge of military forces. The fact of the matter is that though the surge led to declines in violence in the center part of Iraq, it didn't actually achieve its central objective. It did not achieve the objective of solving some of these core political issues. And this is a very difficult and complicated political issue, the tensions between the KRG and the Iraqi central government. These have existed for years, in the 5 years since Saddam Hussein was ousted from power. And frankly, the Iraqi leadership on all sides has avoided a resolution of this. And I think from the U.S. perspective, this is potentially very dangerous. Some of the actions seem to be attempts to put facts on the ground. And what really, I think, is required here is a political solution, one that's mediated by the parties, and the discussions that I think the Iraqi leadership had on Khanaqin, as I understand, over the last few days, and the agreement that was announced yesterday, might be a model for moving forward. But the point from a U.S. policy perspective is this, is that there are no good military solutions to these challenges.
Dirdar, since you mentioned Article 140, there are other articles in the Constitution that deems that no militia should be allowed outside certain disputed areas. The blue line, which is Erbil, Suleimani, and Duhok, has been allocated almost since 1991 as the fort, as the place for the Peshmerga forces. The Iraqi government is asking the Peshmerga, for the time being, just to revert back to these three territories. if you are saying that the KRG is interested in peace, why is not doing it now?
What is happening right now after the constitution of Iraq and after the liberation of the country, Peshmerga forces have entered into new phase and into new vision of not only protecting the region but also going beyond that. What I'm trying to say here, Article 140 is relevant to this issue because 140 there is also commitment from Iraq.
You said something very telling, Zibari, just now. Saad Jawad, he says the Peshmergas, they have moved into other phases. This is the phase, this is the most important phase, and I'm just going to take a break, but let me get your answer from you. This is the part that is going to complete everything right now. If you can grab what you can right now before the central government gets stronger and starts to challenge other forces, just like it did with Al-Qaeda and the militias in the south.
Jassim, this is a very critical moment. This is I mean, unfortunately, our compatriots, our brothers, the Kurds, would like to pick and choose from the constitution or the laws introduced by the Americans. They do not accept to claim that the Peshmerga is a militia. They say it's part of the Iraqi army. Okay, they are part of the Iraqi army. Then why they are not following the orders of the Ministry of Defense? They do not follow the central government orders. They say that the 140 article is a sacred article. Okay, but the article says that there should be a referendum, and there was no referendum up till now made in any of these parts. The percentage of the Kurdish people in Khanaqin is only in the maximum as 15% or 16% in Diyala province. So why should they claim by force that this area is to Kurdistan? I do not mind allocating any part that accepts to be part of Kurdistan to the Kurdish areas. I don't have any objection. We have accepted the federal system and we have supported the claim for the Kurds for the federal system. But now they have been exaggerating their demands to the point that they have issued a new map in which the north of Mosul, Kirkuk and Diyala are part of Kurdistan without any negotiation or without any consultation with the Iraqi people. This is the problem.
Saad Najijwad, thank you very much. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, I'm going to ask Brian, what will the Americans do if conflict is to break out between KRG and Baghdad? Stay with us.
It is the right of the army to enter any province or region in Iraq without exception. Nuri Al-Maliki, Iraqi Prime Minister.